Hello everybody, Chuck Lafferty here, back with another video. Long anticipated video for my famous squirrel egg rolls. First we're going to start out with 2 bags of approximately 6 to 8 squirrels. These have been provided by guys at work. Everybody likes the squirrels so much that they went out and got the squirrels, rounded them up, handed them over, and said, make us some squirrel egg rolls. So I'm going to try to make this video not too long and take you through the steps of how to make squirrel egg rolls. So first we're going to start out with these bags of squirrels, and I'm going to put them in a pot of boiling water here. And we're going to boil these squirrels for about 2 hours. And we'll move on from there. Thank you. Okay, here we have our squirrels all put in a pot. Approximately about 6 to 8. I think it turned out to be 7.5. Somehow they got me half a squirrel. Good job guys. But at this point you can put in just a little seasoning. This water's all going to be drained out, and the squirrel meat's going to be picked apart. But you can throw in a little onion, or in this case it's got some mixed herbs and garlic and onion powder, just for some flavor while it's boiling. You can put in anything you want at this time. Fresh onions, bay leaves, just something while she's cooking. I think I'll throw in a shot of Worcestershire sauce, and we're going to let these simmer for about 2 hours. Okay, real quick check on our squirrels here. Been cooking for about half an hour, 45 minutes. You are going to notice sometimes, anybody who cooks natural game, you're going to see some foaming and stuff on top. As you can see, my water is real clear. What I'll do is I will take a ladle and just skim off the very top layer and scoop off any foam or impurities, which could be, from blood, etc. Try to remove it. At this time, I recommend about every half hour or so cycling your squirrels around. Taking the squirrels from the bottom, bringing them to the top, letting some of the top squirrels get down on the bottom, get cooked better. So that way you don't end up with a squirrel that's half cooked, or one on the bottom that might be sticking to the bottom of the pan, getting, not necessarily burned because you're on low heat, but just helps cook them if you give them a little spin. And we'll come back to these squirrels here about another hour from now, give them a spin, and next we'll be into picking. Alright, it's been about 2.5 hours now. We have our pot of squirrels cooling down, water drained out, meat pretty much falling off the bones. That's kind of what you want to see, is meat just ready to fall off. And real quick, I'm just going to show you a few small tips from what I've learned. These are your different sections. You got your back legs, you got your front legs, then you got the squirrel body with the ribs and inside or back loins. A few things you want to be careful of. I'm going to zoom in here and show you. As you pick apart this back leg, the meat will fall off the bones. But there's one skinny little bone right here. You want to make sure you get that skinny little bone out. During this process, you're going to have a chance to pick through this meat. First time now, second time when we chop it up, and then the third time when we place it in the actual egg rolls. Each of these processes is very important, so you don't get one of these little bones. And you have the same thing in this upper forearm. You're going to find out as you push the meat, just squeeze it with your fingers and the meat comes apart. But you're going to also find, again, you can see them there, 2 little bones. You want to make sure you don't miss these bones. On the ribs, I'll usually strip off this outer layer of meat. Which is usually bone free. Definitely want to check it. Make sure there's no bones in there. I don't feel any bones. And that's a whole strip of good meat. Now once you get close to the actual ribs, this is one part where I kind of just stay away from it. Because if you try to remove this small piece of meat here, there's a good chance you're going to get one of these real thin rib bones in your meat. If you really wanted to go through every piece, you could pull this apart and then try to make sure with your fingers and just by checking it to make sure you don't have any bones in there. But it could be a tedious process, so sometimes I'll just skip this inner layer of meat off the ribs and just take the big strip off the side. And I found out that's a little more productive. When you get to the back, you get a big strip of back meat. Look at that. That's squirrel back strap. That's one of the best parts on the squirrel. And again, that comes from both backs. So I'm going to do one squirrel and come back and show you how much meat we get off of one squirrel. Okay, here we are, folks. This is how much meat we've taken off of just one squirrel. Again, here's that big back strap piece. You're going to have some different variations, some darker meat, some lighter meat. If it's an area where you shot it, you could discard that piece if you don't like it. Found out you're usually not going to find a taste difference. So unless it's really nasty looking, it's not going to hurt your batch. This is all mixed together. But this is actually how much meat you can get off of an entire squirrel. Whole entire plate full. Covers the bottom of the plate. About a ½ inch to inch thick. You could easily make 2 to 3 barbecue sandwiches. Or in the squirrel world, we call it squirrel BQ. Put some barbecue sauce on this. Heat it up in a pan for a second and put that right on the bun and have some squirrel BQ sandwiches. We're going to move forward and we're going to finish picking the rest of the squirrels and see what our total hold is. Again, you can do this in a bowl, or you could do it squirrel by squirrel onto a plate like this and then transfer the meat into a bowl. That way you make sure, once again, the more times you can touch it with your fingers and look for any small bones that may remain is better. So we'll go on and we'll pick the rest of these squirrels and see what we get for our total take of squirrel. Okay, here we are the next day, but normally I do it the same time I pick the meat. I'll cook it the same night and then wait till in the morning to wrap them up. It could be a long day if you try to do everything at once, but I have some time today, so I threw the meat in the refrigerator overnight, and now I'm going to cook it up. It's already been cooked, so all we're going to do now is we're going to add a little flavor to it. I use some Chinese spices. This is a Thai peanut sauce, because they are egg rolls. I'm going to put a little garlic salt into it. Normally I use garlic powder, but I'm going to put some salt because we do need a little salt in here. And I just have a mixture of a mixed rub that I use on different things, variation of spices. This is where you can make these things your own. You can, in this case we're making egg rolls. So I'm using a lot of Chinese spices. I'll put some hoisin sauce in there, peanut sauce. You could use General Tao sauce if you want it a little sweeter. You can use anything like that. When I first started making these, I used soft taco shell wrappers. So in that case, I called them like a squirnado. And I use Mexican spices, like a taco seasonings, taco meat, taco flavoring, maybe some salsa. And I wrap them in a soft taco shell. In this case here, I'll show you what I'm going to wrap them in here. Okay, here's a quick shot of different variations. I used to use taco shells, now I'm using Chinese spring roll wrappers. In this case, this brand is a pastry wrapper. There's a kind of made for egg rolls, probably a little thicker, about 26 pieces in this pack. But as you can see, it's a pretty big wrap. You want to make them go a little longer. Here's a smaller. This is a spring roll shell wrap. There's 30 pieces in here. And then just put that up comparison here to this brand. You can see that this one's a little larger yet. This one's my favorite size. And this one is Taiji spring roll pastry. Again, you get between 25, 30 in a pack. And let these sit out and thaw right before you use them, and then you'll slowly, very slowly peel each one back till you have a real thin wrapper, and that's what we're going to work with. So we'll cook the meat up, and by then these will be ready to start rolling out some egg rolls. Okay, as you can see here, got some pretty big chunks in here, so we're going to reduce this down later. Squirrel meat can be a little stringy, so I'll show you what size I take these pieces and cut them down to. But when you get into some of these big side rib packages and stuff, they could be stringy if you leave them in that length, and we don't want to bite into a stringy egg roll. So right now we're just moving them around the pan. We're getting the Chinese peanut sauce cooked in, the spices cooked in. Just going to bring this up to a warm temperature to where the meat's warm, and after that I'm going to let it rest for a minute, let those flavors soak in, and then we're going to chop it down to size, and we'll be ready to wrap egg rolls. Real quick here, now I'm just going to show you how I got some of the meat out. Like I said, it can be a little long and stringy, as you can see here. And what we want to do is we want to break this up to where we have about pieces like that, quarter pieces. So we're not going to go crazy on this meat. We're just going to cut it up so that we don't have anything real long and stringy. So when you eat them, you don't have any real long 2-inch, 3-inch pieces in your mouth. So just a quick go over of the knife, so that the meat now is in nice chunks versus having any long strings of meat. Then this will be ready for the tacos. I'll continue cleaning this meat, and then we'll set up the station and get ready to start wrapping. Okay, now we're all ready to work. So just want to show you how I set up my station here. That's our chopped meat, already chopped down. Again, I forgot to mention, during the first step of cooking it, we had a chance to look for bones. So while I was cooking it, I did pull out a small rib. While I was just chopping it up, I found another 1 or 2 little bones. I was cutting it in quarter-sized pieces. I also found a small piece of lead. So in every aspect you can, try to check your meat and check for bones. We don't want anybody to chomp into a bone if unnecessary. Right here we got our spring roll wrappers ready to go. Here's one laid out. I use the back of the wrapper as a working platform. We have right here 1 fresh brown egg. Mix that all up. And then here we have jalapeno peppers. Normally I try to buy them diced. These were only in slices, so I did have to take the extra time and dice them down real thin. And then shot of good old American, well, not American, but sriracha sauce. So again, this is a point where you can make these things your own. One other little trick here too is I have some wrappers ready to go so I can keep rolling. I have them defrosting, but to keep them moist, throw a wet rag over them, and they're our next batch ready to go. They're going to stay nice and moist, and
We'll get ready here in a minute. We'll start wrapping. Yeah, before we get started wrapping again, these are just some of the mixtures I use. Anybody, you guys can use whatever you want. This is my Chinese version. If you like raw onions, you can chop up some raw onions, throw in some raw onions. You like scallions, you can put in some scallions. You can mix anything you want at this point to make them yours, make them original. If you don't like jalapenos, skip the jalapenos. Maybe you like yellow sweet peppers. You can make them sweet. Again with the meat too. This is just going to be meat and cheeses. I do have to mix up my cheese quick in a bowl. I'll show you that. I use a mixture of either mozzarella with some sharp, and I think I got a combination sharp jack mix. So I'll mix the sharp jack, and a bag of mozzarella, and that's going to be part of my filler. And here's where you can do whatever you want. When you roll it up, you can add a scoop of jalapenos. You can add a small scoop of shot of sriracha. I did taste my meat. That's a key part when you're mixing it up. Taste it. I think I got some good flavor, good combos in there. I do taste the peanut sauce. I do taste some spices. And still was a little shy, so I actually did put a little more garlic salt in it. Like that garlic. And with the garlic salt, now I got the right amount of salt in there, so we're ready to wrap. So I'll set up the camera here after I get my cheese bowl ready, and we'll start wrapping our first squirrel egg roll. It's going to change your life. Okay, we'll do a test run here, see if everybody can see what's going on. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get a pinch of meat. And this is that final step where you get to actually feel if you have any bones in there. Put a little bit of meat out. At this point, I might take a little scoop of jalapenos, line them up along the egg roll, a little bit of cheese. At this point, I'll start rolling my egg roll. Fold my edges in. And then last step before final wrap is a little bit of egg yolk. Wrap it up. And there you are, one completed egg roll. And when I'll lay that down, I'll try to lay this flat down so it sticks. Lay that down on a cookie sheet, and we're going to move on to our next one. Peel off a spring roll wrapper. Chunk of meat. Once you get into the vibe, you can move pretty quickly. Do whatever you want to these things. Get a little chain. It's always nice if you have help. Unfortunately, I never seem to have anybody who's willing to help me. But everybody's willing to eat them. Little wrap. Fold over. Egg yolk to seal. And then final wrap. Onto the cookie sheet. And before I stop and take a look at this, let's just one more thing. When you're making these egg rolls, I was just meat. I have in the past tried putting in some cabbage. I unfortunately fried the cabbage first, and it made made my egg rolls really sweet. So I don't know if you want to try some dried cabbage. Do your own thing. These things are paper thin. Sometimes you'll lose one in your efforts. But you can take this meat and you can blend something in with it. Some cabbage. There's some Chinese noodles that are available. My friend uses she makes original Oriental egg rolls, and she uses a clear noodle. So if you were to take a clear noodle, mix it in with your meat, instead of maybe getting 90 egg rolls, you might be able to get 200 egg rolls. If you're doubling up with your mixing in something like an additional factor, like putting a noodle in there, whether it be a clear noodle, cabbage, whatever you want. But here's where you, again, I keep saying it over and over again, you can make them your own. I can't guarantee you I've made them the same way every single time, but I can guarantee you every time you eat them, people are going to love them. We'll do just a couple more here before we wrap up, and we'll switch it up a little bit. Like I said more than once and many times in my videos, I may have a video on making hamburger, on making sausage, how I make my own sausage, using your own recipes and finding out what you like. Some people like liquid smoke, some people want no smoke. In this case, we put some jalapenos in there again, so we'll leave that. Take into account that this is a Thai peanut sauce from Thailand, so it already does have some heat to it. So, but I found out in most cases people like the extra bite that the egg rolls give them. You know, people don't want just a plain, they eat something plain Jane and not, you know, something to remember. In this case, let's mix it up. Now you can do this in like at the same time and mix them up so where you don't know what you're going to get, or you can do them in different batches where you know which ones are jalapenos and which one. This one here, let's throw some sriracha on it. Let's do just one line of sriracha down the meat. A little bit of cheese. Wrap it up. And then I'm going to continue on. I'm going to finish this batch. And then in the end, we'll see how many we turn out getting. And then we'll do the last step of, we'll show you how to fry them up real quick. And that'll be that. You'll be the master of squirrel egg rolls. Okay, one more thing. I'm going to jump in here and just show you where we are. I've been wrapping for a little while here. One important thing I forgot to mention is one of the key parts is when you're laying this pad out, you don't want to lay it square to your body. You want to lay it point up. So you put your meat, your cheese on, you do your first wrapping. You're going to see a little moist spot where the meat was. Now you take your first corner, roll it in. Your second corner, roll it in. You can even break this one, just broke open a little bit. That gives you this last corner up here. You can apply your egg yolk. And you can finish your egg roll. I'll take you over here to where we are so far. Look at that. 30 egg rolls. Again, some of the big upper ones are the big ones. They were using the 8-inch shell. And these on the bottom are using the 6-ounce shell. And we are probably not even halfway through our meat. So 30 egg rolls. Again, probably prefer the 8-ounce 8-inch sheets the best. You get a nice little meal out of them, and versus the little 6-inchers. But depending on what you want, if you want to just if you want to just have your friends have a taste, make the little ones. You can hand out more for a party or something. If you're making them for a meal, then go ahead and make them a little bigger. My kids used to come home and throw 2 or 3 in the microwave, cook them up, and that'd be their snack or dinner for the night. It's whatever you want to do, but I'll finish out. We'll see what we get for a total count. I'm thinking we're going to be in the 90s, and then we'll prep them up. On top of this sheet, I'll throw a piece of saran paper, wax paper, put a second layer, and possibly the third layer before these go in the freezer. And normally I'll freeze them overnight before I cook them. Just easier to work with tomorrow. They're solid. They do well in the pan because everything's already cooked. So they just need browned on the outside. Then it can be refrozen. But I'll pull a couple aside here next after I get done finishing the whole batch. We'll get a total count and then we'll fry a couple up. Okay, here we are. Final step. We're all done. Came out to approximately, I think, 80 on the nose. 80 egg rolls. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try a couple up and see what happens. Our oil's starting to come to a heat. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drop them in there slowly. One thing I like to do is try to keep the tab down so it won't unfold. Again, you can do this in a bigger pan with more egg rolls. We're just doing a sample here just to show you maybe 1 inch of oil. They cook quickly. These are light wrappers. Give it a little turn, lightly brown on each side. Lightly brown on each side. Take them off, put them in a plate. There you go. Finished egg rolls. Now everybody can make these at home. Been asked and asked, how do you make them? How do you make them? How do you make them? Now you got it. There it is. Full egg roll recipe. Step by step. And it's amazing how you can take 6 to 8 squirrels and turn them into a meal that can feed many people. Have snacks. I'll now well, tomorrow when I'll break these out of the freezer, I'll bring them out frozen. I'll cook them just like you saw me cook them. About a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch oil. Brown each side so they get this nice crispy brown color. Don't want to go too dark. And then I'll cook them, let them rest, come to temperature, then I'll put them in bags and freeze them. Fit about 12 to 16 in a bag. When you're hungry, you whip one out, throw it in the microwave for like a minute. That cooks the inside, gets them a little soft. So if you want to get them extra crispy then, the trick is, yeah, a little toaster oven. I love my toaster oven. So once you're done cooking, put them in the toaster oven. Get them crispy again. They're ready to go. Now you can take them and you can add some sriracha sauce or Chinese mustard, whatever you want to eat them with, or you can just eat them as are. There you are. Squirrel egg roll. Oh, cheese. Taste the squirrel. Taste the jalapeno. Actually could even been a little heavier on the peanut butter, but different every time. Delicious every time. So there you are. Check out Squirrel Man, how to make squirrel egg rolls.